Hello, brothers and sisters. Raven here. This weekend I'm going to do a short video on a small document I received that is Homestead Heritage's little lessons on how to teach children to write. Generally, you wouldn't expect much in this, and I'll say there's not a whole lot to it. But there's a couple things I wanted to point out after looking at some of it. Generally, it can look good. Generally, most of what they say can sound fine. What they're teaching seems okay. But when you watch carefully, you see a few problems. Number one, I will say there are errors in this. And not just a couple. There's things that just seem like they don't truly know grammar, punctuation as well as they pretend to. The other thing I'll say, a lot of the guidelines are off track, and I want to point out a couple. First thing I want to point out is on page 6. Prior to what I'm going to show you, or read for you, they talk about how the whole point of this is the children need to write more to think more, to really think through things. But with the lessons it gives here, no. This is going to show that's not what they're doing. Let me read for you part of what they say. Misplaced modifiers. So they're going through different issues, and then they're giving examples. So this one, misplaced modifiers, says, she wore a straw hat on the back of her head, which was obviously too small. They put .. Is the hat or the head too small? Duh! That shouldn't be the kind of thing you need to clarify. That's obvious. That's just common sense. That's just basic thinking. Using your head. Of course, it's not that the head's too small. That's not something you get to choose. That's not something you get to correct. Duh. The clothes are what can be too small or too big, not the person. That's backwards. So right there, you see what they give you as far as the rules goes to the extent where, no, this isn't letting them think. They don't figure it out. Somebody else has already figured it out. It's doing the opposite of what they claim. What I want to talk about after that, you can see by that, this is not really being used for the reason they claim, which is to help them think, to really use logic. They don't like people thinking. This is about giving them rules to follow, and some rules that go way too far, just as in their theology. They say this is what I can't stand. God doesn't want us to laboriously think about what we write any more than we have to laboriously think about what we speak. That is why some people do so much better with writing than they do with speaking. Because they have the time to think through it, to be certain of how they're putting it. I'll say right now, that kind of teaching can sound good if you're talking about things like poetry, maybe fiction, because then you're going from your heart, you're just letting out what you're trying to express. But that's not what they do as much of in Homestead. If they're going to have a lot of writing, what they're probably going to be doing is they're probably going to be doing things having more to do with your devotions, your lessons, your essays, etc., etc. Those are things where you do have to put more thought into it. You do have to think through this. What this does, following it this way that they're trying to push is the way God wants you to do it, makes it so that you don't think. You don't use your head. You just get it out. Then go back. But the problem is when you go back, you're going to be so focused on all these rules like we just saw of how to put it together, you're not going to really be thinking about what you actually say. You're just going to be worried about following all the rules that they're giving here. These are not real rules of writing. These are added in there to have more control of them. To be able to see that in this, for just teaching children how to write, that's messed up. More reason why we need to warn people about places like this. I'll see you all next time. God bless.